My name's Thomas Waddle. This is the Whisky Sour Hour. Managed to snag some early preview tickets for Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. Didn't know what was going to happen. It was a last minute kind of thing, and off the back of that, and off the back of the lovely feedback I've had after the retrospective last week, I've decided to make this a review of supposedly the final Mission Impossible movie, Final Reckoning. So the way I was going to do it, just so that we're not isolating absolutely everybody, because this is very early, this will be up this Saturday. It's just came out on the Friday, and I'm going to make half the review just my feelings as somebody who's a big fan of the series, and then we'll go into a little bit of spoiler. So you could listen if you don't really care about the series and just want to know my full opinions, or you could table the first half after you've listened to it, and then you can come back and the second half will be sitting ready, and you can get into all the juicy spoilers that we'll be going through. But went and saw it earlier in the week. Made the mistake of not checking the run times, and it's just shy of 3 hours. No spoilers. This will be no spoilers from now, and I'm going to try and do something a wee bit different. Anybody that's watching this on YouTube, I might actually upload the video on Spotify so that there's a little kind of designation that this is the spoiler kind of chat. We'll maybe add a little bit into the picture, the thumbnail, so we'll be able to do that. But I never checked the time, and it was 170 minutes, so no far off 3 hours. And I can't believe I'm saying this about a Mission Impossible movie. It felt it. Again, no spoilers, just going to kind of go over the brief outline. Anybody that saw the previous movie knows it ends in a cliffhanger, and I've rewatched the series, so I was very much ready for this. And the first hour of this movie it's basically just retelling you the previous movie, and loads of little kind of fan servicey moments that are fine when you're at the end of a journey. It's nice to kind of have little throwbacks to stuff. But it was a bit of a slog the first hour, and I can't believe I'm saying that. Usually Mission Impossible, the writing is quite, it's no sparse, but it's like really good with its time, and it sets it up really well. And I found that this movie and the last movie just dragged everything out, and it wasn't like Tarantino writing where you're hanging on every word, and it doesn't need to be. It's not that kind of movie, but it felt like it felt like they were over explaining things because they're knowing people haven't gone and are not, I don't know, like they're just not going out and seeing it as much as other movies. Like obviously we spoke last week about how Oppenheimer and Barbie and came out and destroyed the box office for the previous movie. And the previous movie probably would have done $650-700 million, and it didn't. It was like 500, and when the budget's as high as what it is, the supposed budget for this movie is 300-400 million, meaning it needs to make at least $1 billion. I'll be honest, I don't see that happening, and that's disappointing because I would love for this to go out in the high, but it's too long, it's too overly written. And usually when you have a film like this, don't go in expecting it to be all action, because it's really not. Usually we've gave high praise to Mission Impossible Fallout, which is, I think, the best. There's like a small trilogy in the middle of the films. You've got Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation and Fallout. Those are like the perfect movies. Those are the best movies. We'll redo the list and the overall top 8 movies in the Mission Impossible franchise at the end. But when you're watching them, they're perfect, and they're probably about I would say the 3 of them are over 2 hours, maybe 2 hours 15 max. But they managed to fit in at least say 3 action sequences. In Fallout, there's probably 4.5, I would argue, of foot chases. As fun as they are, they're not as impactful as some other ones, or maybe the Fallout one is with a broken ankle. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. Basically, the first half of this, or the first third of this movie, like the first hour anyway, is it's really, really slow, really a lot of talking, a lot of character setup, that for the previous movie that's already been done. So you've, especially somebody like myself who'd rewatched the original or the previous film, it was difficult to. It was just difficult to kind of get into it because I'm like, I know all these things anyway. The big hang up is, as I say, it takes too long to get going, and there is two really big set pieces, and to be honest, they are great. There's one, an underwater sequence, as I say, we're not going to spoil anything now, but there's an underwater sequence, and the sequence that's on the posters with the biplanes, both are really good. I think the underwater one's a lot better than the biplanes, considering the biplanes is hanging for the side of planes, and it's Tom Cruise doing it because you see his face shuggle in the wind. But there's just something about it, and we'll go into it, as I say, with the spoiler chat, but there's just something about it. And two action sequences, I don't get me wrong, they go on for a little bit. They don't overstay their welcome, they're well paced, but just shy of 3 hours, that's a big ask, and I don't think the writing carries the film, unfortunately. As you can tell, I'm a little bit down on it. I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I certainly think it's a lot better than the most recent James Bond movies. I found the Daniel Craig ones to be a bit dour, a bit soulless, a bit grim. And I always found that Mission Impossible was striking a good balance between having serious moments and having, lightheartedness. I feel that this movie takes itself far too seriously, and I think that's a big issue. There was always jokes, and even in the last film, if anybody that's watched them recently, they're looking for a car in Rome, and they're like, oh, we need to get a safe car that I was going to say MIB, that's Men in Black, but the IMF of got safe cars around the city, and it turns out it's like a Fiat 500, but it's got like a souped up electric battery, so it's rapid, and there was a lot of comedy with that, and it was good, a really good action sequence, and then it's just so dour. And I get it, like, the world's at stake, nuclear bombs, but we've done nuclear bombs. You can't really go any higher than that without kind of jumping the shark and there being aliens and Tom Cruise has to fight it. It doesn't get like that, but it lacks a bit of... It's very sincere, I'll give it that. It just lacks a bit of kind of humour, to levity, to kind of lighten what is otherwise a pretty dour movie. And as I say, I found the Daniel Craig James Bonds to be like that. They were just a wee bit grim, and they lacked a bit of fun, like the kind of spy capers should have. And the Mission Impossible's done it, and I always found that the Kingsman movies were just what I wanted James Bond to be. So I found that I just found them jarring. But anyway, we're getting off subject to them. The film, again, without going into too many spoilers, the film the villain does not do justice to having like two movies. It's not a a Heath Ledger's Joker or a Kaiser Sose. Those kind of, the villain isn't great, and I think it really does affect, especially the second half of the movie, when the human antagonist is the Gabriel character from the previous movie. He's diabolical, and S.A. Marais, I think is how you pronounce the fella's name, but he's just dire. He's so bad, and when you've had villains like, and again, don't want to spoil too much, because I think Fallout it's not just one of the best Mission Impossible movies, it's one of my favourite movies, but the bad guys in that, your Sean Harris and somebody else, because there's a good twist in that movie. There's they should have just brought him back for that. I think people wouldn't have minded, because they would have been happy to see those characters, and they were alive at the end of the movies they were in, so that would have been cool. But there's flashbacks to long before Tom Cruise's character Ethan was in the IMF. Go absolutely nowhere. Do not, there's the one that you've seen in the first part of this movie, where there's a lady getting shot, never comes back up. You re-see it thinking maybe there's going to be reason for that. It's implied that there's been some murder charges back in the day, and he joined the IMF to get out, but it never materialises into anything obviously we'd spoke about the previous movie and the death of Elsa Faust, who is one of the best characters in the series that was introduced in Rogue Nation. And my wife's probably rolling my eyes going, oh, you're going about Rebecca Ferguson again. Look, she should have been in that. Whatever she wanted, you should have paid her however much she wanted, because the reason she left, and Lauren told me this, because I was like, why did she leave? And she shouldn't know me in this. She didn't want to stand about because it was taking so long to film. And I totally get that, because I remember during COVID, obviously the legendary kind of rant that Tom Cruise went on to try and get the film. It was probably the highest profile film to be back filming at the time, and there was just a whole lot of kind of stuff going on in the background. And Rebecca Ferguson came out and said, like, I've filmed 2 Dune movies in that time, and didn't want to like basically just sit about and wait, which I totally get. So the Hayley Atwell character, for me, the Grace character, I'm already on the back foot with her. I'm like, you're not terrible, you're not a terrible actress or anything. I find that the character is just put in there because they couldn't have the Elsa character, and who's just a much cooler character. So it kind of sours you, because like character deaths can be fine. We all know, like, obviously going back, like somebody like a sacrifice, like an Iron Man or something like that, like those are cool. And you can have the twist where they're not actually dead, because it's Mission Impossible. Somebody's wearing a face mask, if it is a face mask, but a fake face, or they could have just done something. Nobody's going to like raise an eyebrow if they see like nanobots that can regrow tissue or whatever. She was stabbed, so it wasn't that to me is not a big deal in these movies. You should be able to survive that, but it feels like a wee bit of character assassination, and I feel like it carries into this movie, because when you're watching it, you're like, that should have been that other character, and there's things, as I say, that happen that will go into it. But I don't think it's a movie that you necessarily need to skip. I think it's a good film. It's a good film to see at the cinema. It's very much a cinema movie, and it deserves a big screen, because some of the action at the end, you are just like, I can't believe I've seen this. And I was thinking, remember when you watch the older like kind of James Bond movies, and you're thinking these guys were jumping out of planes in the 70s, and how big the cameras must have been that they were carrying. And we're doing it now where like the cameras are attached to the actors, and they're so small, and you've got drone shots and kind of what they can do. So it's a bit jarring to see it shot in camera. Like it's maybe the odd bit of special effects to add like weather conditions or something, but that these guys are actually falling like 30, 25, 20,000 feet in the air. It does add a bit of excitement for it. So seeing these films on the biggest screen, most comfortable seats possible, is really good. And the sound design's really good. There's certain set pieces, the underwater set piece especially, is very exciting. One of the things that does strike me is I'm a big believer in, I think movie music is just as important as the filming. A good score can elevate a film above like mediocrity. And unfortunately, the composer from the previous 2 films, and we mentioned them last week, Lorne Balfe, Scottish composer, done some of the biggest films ever. Does a lot of work with Hans Zimmer, and like he's very, very, very good. Just a quality composer. For whatever reason, he's left, and you're left with the composers on this film were like production, or they were part of the team that were doing the music. So Max Arjou and Alfie Godfrey, it's a totally forgettable soundtrack, and I don't want to sound disrespectful. To me, the Mission Impossible theme is just as iconic as your James Bond, John Barry, theme, and it's so underused. Even the beginning, everybody like you watch the Mission Impossible movies, it's almost like a TV show, because you put it on, you watch the first kind of 10-15 minutes action sequences, and then it's like dun 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 dun, it's like it's all kicking off. It's the most like laid back kind of version, out with the one from Ghost Protocol, which was very, very laid back, a little bit too laid back if you ask me. But it's just disappointing. I love listening back to a soundtrack. I know I bring it up all the time, but the Batman soundtrack, even like like listening to like the Shawshank Redemption soundtrack, Lord of the Rings, Howard Shaw, the list goes on. This will not be getting listened to, and I'll be honest, I don't know. I think if I'm collecting the physical media, I probably will buy it. I'll wait till it's in sale, and if I'm maybe rewatching this series, and again, I don't think the film's bad. When you've got such high standards with these kind of movies, I think when I go back and watch them, I'm probably going to just miss the last two out, and just the ending of Fallout was perfect. There was no loose ends that you really cared. That you didn't care about them, but there was nothing really you were like, oh, I want to come back and see that. It was just they were making another movie, and that was it. So I think I'm probably just going to rewatch that middle trilogy that I talk about, and then just we'll call it a day at that. I know I sound like I'm being down on it. I think you should go and see it. It is good. It's like a 6.5 in my opinion out of 10. If I was going to like rate the other ones, like especially like as I say, I keep talking about this middle trilogy, they're 8.5 to at least a 9.5. So that it's a big gulf in quality there. It's worth going to see. Just be aware. It's 3 hours, and the first hour is. It's chronic. I'm going to be. It's so bad. The first hour is so bad, and then after that, you're like, right, it's a fun movie. They could have cut out probably maybe 30 minutes of waffle, which anybody that's listening to this knows I like a good waffle. This is it's just too much. You could have cut it down to 2 hours 20 minutes. You're on par with the last movie, maybe some of the other movies, and it'll speed things up a little bit. It'll expedite you. It'll get you to the excitement of the deep sea dive or the flying of the planes. It just takes too long to get there, and that's where the issue lies. A 3 hour movie, it's a lot to ask for people to come out, and then when your budget's 400 million, and I know there was production issues, it just that seems gross, like to be that big. So 6.5 out of 10 in my opinion. That's where it sits with me. Spoilers. We kind of need to get into the spoilers for that, so we're going to go into spoilers now. If you haven't saw it, jeez, goodness gracious me, I'm kicking myself there. If you haven't seen the film, go and see it. Pauses, come back, and then we can discuss it here. Right, what is going on? You've seen it now, so the couple of issues straight away. That beginning is far too long. Anybody that's watched the previous movie knows that when you're watching it, you're basically getting told things you've saw. A 2.5 hour movie, and they're condensing it in for another hour to basically get you to where you were at the end of the last movie. It doesn't make sense. I think Tom Cruise is just he's like quality. I think the writing is a big issue here, and I feel like you can tell that this movie's been chopped and changed, because I imagine there could be a director's cut of this. We talk about like the Zack Snyder Justice League cut. I'm pretty sure you could do like another cut of this, because there just seems to be like it's almost like a different film crew made this film, even though it wasn't. It doesn't feel very consistent with the last movie. As I say, it's not very fun. You've got like Tom Cruise, Simon Pegg after escaping in the last movie, and there's like a two month jump. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like it. It feels like you're jumping into like the part 3 of a movie, and then they're having to tell you about it. I know I keep going on about how bad the beginning is, but you have no idea. Like I was struggling. See, until you'll know the part when Tom Cruise jumps out the back of the Osprey. That's when you're like, right, finally we're getting somewhere here. So you've got that. One of the other things that I didn't like is, when you watch, if you go back and watch like the Marvel movies, I don't know how much of them they had where they're like, right, we are going to plan this out meticulously. I don't know if, like, when they're writing the first Iron Man movie, they're like, right, when we get to, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, we're going to have this happen. I don't know if they were that far into it, but for a fact, when they were writing the first 3, 4, 5 movies of this, they weren't like planning to get to this point, and then, it just wasn't planned out like that. So when you're watching this film and they're talking about the entity who is the robot AI bad guy, you're talking about that. When they try to say that the rabbit's foot from Mission Impossible 3 was the entity all along, I'm sitting with a pen here. I've been writing stuff down just so I've got it, because I was like, this is a big point. I did not like the fact that they went and retroactively changed the Mission Impossible 3. You know that it's a big thing, because I remember back in the day thinking, what was that? What was it? But the mystery of it being it was some sort of biological agent, because it says all that, it's got like the biological signs and on it, and you had obviously like Philip Seymour Hoffman, who was not just one of the best bad guys in the series, but like just a cracking bad guy in general. You've went and took that, and then you're spinning it out trying to sell me like this was always the plan. I know that they don't come out, and it doesn't really matter if you believe it or not. It's part of the story. But I feel like when you go back and watch the third one now, like, I don't know, like you just know for a fact that was never the plan. So there's no reason to ever go back and do it. And then when you're everything just feels so rushed. Like, I know you've got a 3-hour movie, but then like they're rushing to get to points. Like the whole like Ethan getting caught after I think they're in London or Paris, or the character's Paris, and they're trying to like break them out, and then it's just poor. We'll go through some of the characters, right, just to kind of get us back in line. So you've got Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is in top form, right? It's just the writing lets him down. Everything else, he's looking great. The only thing I wouldn't, and I think you can chart the series by Tom Cruise's hairstyles. I think his hair's pretty lackluster. I think he's had longer hairstyles that have looked better. I'm just, as a bald man, I am jealous of it. But at the same time, I'm like, I probably would have stuck with the short back and sides like you had for the previous two movies. I think Hayley Atwell, like I said, is in the non-spoiler chat, is a stand-in for Ilsa Faust, and I feel like the connection she has with Ethan is very much unearned. And again, not that she's a bad actress or anything. I just think that there's a resentment towards her, because you're like, the character, not Hayley Atwell, you shouldn't be here. this doesn't feel right. Ving Rhames is Luther. His death, it seemed a bit. I know. Obviously, you want to raise the stakes, so you've got main characters dying, and that's fine because they've done it in the last film, as I've just went on about. But Ving Rhames getting killed, it felt like a added in scene. Like, that's a reshoot. I don't think that was in the place at all. Maybe they went back and looked at it and thought, we need to raise the stakes, so maybe that's what it is. Simon Pegg is Benji, is just, he's good. Like, I like Simon Pegg. I don't think there's really any movies in that he's bad. I mean, especially Scotty in the Star Trek films is really good, probably because his wife's Scottish and he can get the mannerisms down. But Benji Dunn is just a good character. S.I. Morales is Gabriel, is the worst villain of the series, I would say, which is disappointing when you're in the and I'm not saying end game as in like the Avengers. I'm just talking about the end game of the series. He has no screen presence. Like, he's almost like a villain, like the henchman to the main villain, and the main villain really should be the AI that it does nothing. Him and this, they broke up by the end of the last film, so that they're working as separate entities, and it's just no fun. He doesn't choose scenery. He does nothing. He just blends into the background, and then the AI in the previous film, it was like messing about with the cameras, so you couldn't see somebody, or it was using AI voice modulation to trick the team and stuff. There's none of that in this. It is just straightforward. He speaks with Tom Cruise, or the AI speaks with Tom Cruise for maybe like 5 minutes. He goes into the sensory deprivation tank that was in the previous movie, and that's it. You get nothing else. There's no like, it's arming nuclear bombs. It's taken over. That is really it. Pom Clementieff is Paris. She was fine. She was just like, like, I thought she was going to be like the first film where she was a walking action sequence and she sets that up. No, she has some cool things that she does, some good kind of lines. Her and Benji are the probably only characters that bring a bit of kind of levity. I know we were saying it's quite dour. There is a little bit of light and stuff in it, but that's really it. there's like a whole backroom staff, which feels just like kind of random cameos. I think whoever does the casting obviously likes, what do you call it, Apple TV shows. So you've got I always butcher her name. It's Hannah Waddingham is a rear admiral on a, I was going to say cruise ship. It's not a cruise ship. It's an aircraft carrier. And you've got Tramell Tillman from Severance. Both obviously Apple shows between that and Ted Lasso for Hannah Waddingham. They just feel like they're these cameos. They feel like they're, I don't know, misused. The big thing for me, in the previous film you had Shea Wiggum and Greg Tarzan Davis playing Theo Degas and Jasper Briggs. So they were CIA trying to catch Ethan Hunt. Within 10 minutes of this film, Degas has joined the team, and Shea Wiggum is outed as not being Jasper Briggs at all. He's Jim Phelps Jr. So Jim Phelps was the bad guy in the first film, and I believe in the TV show he was actually the main character. So there was the actor that played him in TV was pretty angry at the fact that happened. So it was that to me screams or reeks of, well, we need to write in a bit of fan service. That's what that needs to be. Did not enjoy that at all. The best character in this film is Rolf Saxon coming back as William Dunlow. If anybody watching the original film, probably the standout moment in my opinion, although I enjoy the train chase at the end, the standout moment for me is the breaking into Langley to steal the knock list, and William Dunlow is the programmer that you see, and they have to they give him laxatives so he leaves and they can get in, and there's always that kind of tension, I'm coming back and then leaving again. So basically in that film he's told, we're going to ship him off to Alaska. So I think it's is it Marshall Island, or maybe not the Marshall Islands, but it's he's put on he's put on an island basically for the last 30 years because of the break-in. St. Matthew, I had the note somewhere. It's Matthew Island he's put on, so it's like sub-zero temperatures, and I love the fact that he wasn't angry at what had happened, because obviously when he realises who Tom Cruise's character is, he's like, I wouldn't have met my wife, and he has some of the best lines in it. And the kind of funny thing is, I grew up playing a game. It was like a point and click game, if anybody remembers what point and click is. Point and click adventure called Broken Sword, and Rolf Saxon does the voice of the main character. So when you hear him speaking, because I don't think he actually, I think he maybe has like one line in the first film. So 30 years ago, so when you're actually watching this film and you hear Rolf Saxon speak, and you're like, oh, that's George Stobart. So that was pretty cool, kind of hearing that. And he does steal the scenes on him and his wife. I think her name was Tepeza. I put that down, but it's I'm not sure. It's Inuit. So I'm terrible with trying to pronounce names that aren't like John or Jane. So yeah, Tepeza and William Dunlow steal the show, man. They are great, and I was so glad that they didn't die at the end, because that it just felt dead contrived. I was like, oh god, here we go. Somebody has to die. It's going to be him. But yeah, so that's the kind of, I wanted to touch on some of the characters just and go over a little bit about it. I'm just going to take a little Pepsi Max here. Give me 2 seconds. I'm trying to record this in one go because I want you to, I don't know, feel like we're having a conversation here. So Pepsi Max probably wasn't the best. It's arguably the gassiest of beverages. But yeah, I've got like a brief summary that I wrote down here just in the film outline. It, like I said, we mentioned the rabbit's foot earlier, but the first hour is literally just setting up what needs to be done. Angela Bassett, a character obviously from Fallout. I don't know why I didn't have her written down, but I've got it here written in my summary here. So Angela Bassett, Erica Sloan, she was the CIA leader in Fallout. Henry Cavill's boss, for anybody that remembers that. Well, she's the president now, and actually when I was watching back the part 1, the films yet. There's a small picture of her, but I don't believe there's any other reference of her being the president. Now that was quite cool seeing that. But basically the first hour of the movie is setting up to Ethan meeting Erica Sloane, and with her being the president, she has like all these cameo characters that are the staff that she has around her. And the meeting basically ends with her allowing Ethan to use military assets. So this is where I was talking about the aircraft carrier, and eventually there's a submarine that comes into play. So as I say, we've spoke about this for about half an hour now. I feel like if I really wanted to, I could do a pretty concise summary of the first half, and like I say, we could get that down. If we could lose half an hour in this, it would be a much more palatable movie. So we've got the ball rolling. Ethan and the team are splitting up. So some of the guys are going to isolate the entity here, and Ethan is going to basically the submarine for the first part of the movie, the first part of the previous movie that sunk. That's where the source code for the AI exists, and he needs to go and basically steal that, upload a kill switch to it that will then stop it from kind of going through the internet. And if he sets the internet off, if he destroys the AI while it's on the internet, it's going to wipe out like everything, like all civilization, like in cyberspace. So it's the kind of contrivances are it needs to go into like what's the word they use, a doomsday device area that needs to fall into. There's a whole lot of like big languages, a big language in that here that you're like, this just seems a bit. It seems a bit rushed. I'm not even rushed. I don't even say contrived, because I don't know if it's contrived, but it just feels a bit meh, like doomsday. Oh, we're hearing that again. So the team's split up. They're doing their own thing. As I say, this is the bit, in my opinion, which is the best bit of the movie, where they do a deep sea dive. And what it is there's Tom Cruise, Ethan is in this like prototype wetsuit that allows him to go to like whatever 400 feet or 300. I think they say in the film it's never been tested over 300 meters or 300 feet. So it obviously means that he's deeper than that for them to be concerned about it. But he goes down to the Sevastopol submarine, and from here you get, as I say, arguably the best scene in the film. It's tense. It's almost like a horror film. There's like jump scares that kind of happen in it, and then when the submarine starts rolling to the crevasse, it's just a very well shot scene. And the bit when he's in the bay to leave the submarine, he opens it, and then there's that massive Russian submarine behind them. That was pretty cool. I don't think I've ever seen that. Or maybe like, when was the last time I watched a submarine movie? Like I'm trying to think, is it The Widowmaker or something? There was one with Bon Jovi. There seemed to be like a lot of them back in the kind of early 2000s. I used to really like them. I used to get right claustrophobic watching them, but this kind of brought about that kind of anxiety. You kind of feel it in your chest, and this is when the film is good, because you're enjoying these action sequences. That Tom Hanks is under the water doing this, even though he's probably not under the water. It's a massive pool. He's no like in the Mariana Trench or anything, but like really exciting. This you're like, if this was just earlier, it would have been a lot more exciting. If they had another, action sequence to get to this point. So you've got all that. Eventually, he gets out and then makes his way up, and he ends up. I'd say this movie's very much like the Marvels in that, or the Marvel movies in that. There's always a topless scene, and there's like probably like a good solid maybe like 15-20 minutes of Tom Cruise just running about with his kit off. Guy's in shape. But it's just this. He ends up the knife fight in his underwear, and then I don't know how cold the water is, but I imagine it's absolutely Baltic. And he has to cut his cell out his wetsuit because he can't fit in the torpedo tube. So I listen. I know you're suspending your disbelief. It's absolutely fine. I'm just like, that would be freezing. Like, I mean, there's cold water dips, and then there's cold water dips, and thankfully they managed to get him out, because the team are away to. This is where like the Dunlow character comes in, because the other half of the team are away. basically try to get the location of the submarine, and they're using like old tech so that the AI doesn't pick it up. So eventually, like, they meet up. The Russians are there. There's a big firefight, and the team end up like meeting up. They managed to rescue Ethan in his underwear, get him out the ice, and this is them on the home stretch. I remember thinking, like, surely this because they're talking about going to South Africa to this doomsday vault to be able to secure the entity in it so it doesn't wipe out civilization. And I was like, now we feel like we're rushing, even though like we've had like 3 hours to get to this point. We feel like we're rushing to the end here. So you've got the plane chase basically is the big bit here. There's a lot of chatting where it's unnecessary. You've got Gabriel, a terrible villain, turning up just like chewing scenery, but he doesn't. I don't even know why I said that, because that's given too much of a compliment. The writing's terrible, and I've seen SM Morales in a lot of things. He was really good as anybody that watched Titans. He was really good as Slade Wilson. It's a pure like easy thing to say, and it's a eye rolly thing, but he's like a nothing burger. Like, he's not going to win any awards. You're never going to think of him again. Whereas, like I said, we mentioned earlier, Philip Seymour Hoffman, like Owen Davian, probably in the film 20 minutes, steals every scene he's in, and tied to a chair, and he's still threatening Ethan Hunt's wife. What a villain! He's so good, and S.A. Morales is let down, probably by the script, let's be honest, but he wasn't great in the last film either, so who knows. You have the biplane chase. That's the kind of big set piece here. The guys have a shootout, and like I say, there's a nuclear bomb, and the kind of tease like, oh, somebody has to die. Like, let's just skip that. Like, nobody dies. Rolf Saxon is still alive. Dunlow is alive. His wife survives, and so does Greg Tarzan's character. See, I'm going to have to quickly check that. See, there's too many characters here. Degas is still alive, but we came here for the biplane chase, and it's good. And the way they cut it is good. It's well edited, in that they're doing other things. Or Benji being injured, and the characters having to catch the AI, let it in once they hack into the mainframe and allow it access. Like, that's all quite good. Benji's losing consciousness in that. You're like, God, he might die now as well. He doesn't, so like everybody's fine. But the biplane chase, the way they cut in with that, it's very cool. The issue is, and again, S.A. Morales, you've got that. I mean, this should be like the big bad. Like, it would have been cool. I think even if you'd done it with what they'd done with Blofeld, and I think it was Spectre. It turns out he was like, he'd done a lot of kind of things like that. Again, talking about like retroactively going back and changing the movie that wasn't planned. They could have done that with the Gabriel character, and have him like in the background on like Mission Impossible 2. Maybe he was the one that's saying Sean, the bad guy in that, like, oh, this is where Chimera is. And I mean, leave Owen Davian alone. He was like quality bad guy, and that's probably the only issues with the later movies, is the bad guys are a bit kind of like, they're just there. Apart from obviously the Sean Harris, he's good. He is really good. So you could have something there where he's like been manipulating and pulling the strings in the background. But he's not, and he has probably the lamest of deaths. He gets unstrapped for his chair. I think they do like a loop or a barrel roll, and he falls, and he hits his he gets hit, right. He gets hit in the balls off the wing, and then he hits his head off the wing, and it looks like it embeds in his head, and he falls away. That is it. Like, the scene, folk laughed like that. I laughed. The auditorium was maybe like, I'd say half capacity, and like there was like audible laughter that you could hear, not just for myself. That's not what you want when you're killing like your main bad guy. It should be like, yes, they've got him, and then like obviously the capture the AI in the little glowing cube that looks like, again, something for the Avengers, and it ends with the team just dispersing in London. Could they make another one? I'll be honest, I think they probably should, to get the taste of this out. I think, maybe take a year or two and then just like keep the budget down, and let's do it. Let's do this one more time. And this is what I would do, is in just like the laws of physics are out the window. Just Henry Cavill's character had a face mask on, and it wasn't actually him that died. And John Lark's still alive. Bring the White Widow back, because their characters were missing. And I bring back Elsa Faust, pay Rebecca Ferguson whatever she wants, get her back in the film, and let's just do it that way. Like, let's do one big hurrah. Make that 3 hours and just have it like this is one movie, well written, well paced. 2.5 hours if it has to be. Just do that. Come back for one more, and that'll be it. If when we were talking about re-rating the movies, which after I saw it, I obviously we'd done it last week, and I was quite high on excitement. I was looking forward to seeing it. If I was re-rating them now, and I don't think there is a bad movie in this list. I'll be totally honest with you. I don't think there's a bad movie in it. I think they're totally watchable, but I think they're at least watchable from the worst. There is some movies that you're just like, I'm never watching that again. There's none in that. I would go back and rewatch these movies if it's for an action scene or just the way it's shot or the soundtrack. Like, they're all worth watching. If I was going back and like redoing them, I'll be honest. I would probably put part one, Dead Reckoning Part 1, and The Final Reckoning at the bottom. Again, don't think they're bad at all. I just think they're just a wee bit disappointing. So I would put them there. They're your sixes, alright? So you've got... I would have to put Dead Reckoning 1, because you can watch that without seeing the other one. So Dead Reckoning Part 1, then Final Reckoning. I would then do Mission Impossible 2. I would do then Mission Impossible, the original, Mission Impossible 3, and then that middle trilogy I speak about, Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, and then Fallout at the top. Fallout is not just it's not just the best film in this, it's one of the best films ever, the best action films ever. It's up there with your Mad Maxes, 100%. I would die in that hill. Like, that is me. I'm going to stand there and get that. It's superb. Go and see it. Just it's worth seeing in the big screen. I know we're being down on it. I think it's just because we expect so much from it. As I say, 6 out of 10, 6.5 out of 10 I would give it. 6.5. I'm no saying it's terrible. I just think, it could be so much better. You've listened to my ramblings enough. What are your thoughts? Have you saw it yet? Are you going to go and see it? Remember, you can always let us know in the comments, or you can send us a wee email. We'll give you a little shout out on the show. If you are listening to it, just give us a little like, give us a follow, a subscribe even. And if you want to get in touch, remember, contact at thewhiskeysourhour.com. Got a couple of interviews coming up, so they'll be getting recorded soon, and you'll be hearing them. Looking really forward to doing that with some of the people we have coming on, which is always good. But I hope you have a great Saturday. Apparently, when this is going up, the weather's to change, so fingers crossed that doesn't happen. I don't want to be the guy that's saying, like, if it was like this sort of time, you wouldn't want to go abroad. But the weather has been glorious, as I say. It's the best. Well, apparently, it's the best spring in the last century. It's certainly the COVID year was glorious for a good solid 8 weeks. I'm pretty sure. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but it felt like that, and it made it bearable. It probably saved a lot of lives with the cleaning properties of the UV light for the sun. But whatever you're doing, have a great one. I hope the weather stays great, and if it's not, listen, just get yourself comfortable, listen to this, and we'll see you through. But I've been Thomas Waddle. This has been the Whisky Sour Hour. Cheers. Oh, push that button, turn that off.